Hey guys, welcome to Vegan Beauty Girl. My name is Nicole and I have been vegan now for about 14 years and that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. I have been vegan since 2007. I feel like this has been one of my most asked questions. People are always very curious as to how I knew what veganism was back then or how I managed to go vegan, what it was like. So we're going to kind of explore that area in today's video. First question, why did I go vegan? Let's go through why I went vegan and how I knew what it was. So I started off, I guess, my vegan journey by going vegetarian. Actually, it was pescatarian. Yeah, my vegetarian origin story was I was at like a school event and I'd found out that people in other cultures ate camels. There is normally this point when you realise that an animal you didn't think was like food could be considered food by other people, and it's jarring. And then I think I had either an adult or another kid explain to me that it's kind of like how we eat cows and pigs and all this stuff, and I was just very confused. I was like, well, that just doesn't sound right. It's not nice that people eat camels, and do you know what? It's not nice that we eat cows. So that's kind of how I went vegetarian. I kind of had that moment. Well, I told my parents I was going vegetarian, but at the time I had two like vegetarian aunts who were actually pescatarian. So my parents were like, how about you do what Auntie Lara and Auntie Lisa do and you go pescatarian? It seemed like a good compromise. But then a year into being a pescatarian, I was like, doesn't feel right for the fish. So I decided to go vegetarian. And then a year after that, I learned about veganism. So it was the summer holidays just before year 9. I was 13 at the time. I was just bored and at home alone, and I was going through the PETA website just because I did really like being a vegetarian. I really cared about animals, and I was like, is there more I can do? I'll have a look at this website and see what else there is. But I thought, like, I don't know, campaigning at school or something. I didn't think like there was more I could do with my diet. But then I discovered what veganism was through the PETA website, and I was like, well, why wouldn't people eat milk and eggs? And then I did a bit more research and I found out that animals die. And I don't want to get too graphic, I'm not on those channels, but yeah, I did find out that animals die in the process of making milk and eggs, and it's just not a nice thing. It's not wholesome, it's not kind to animals. And I remember thinking like, fuck, this was way more complicated. This is not feasible. This is not possible. I was curious, so I went downstairs and I was like looking in the kitchen cupboards and I was checking what would be vegan and what wouldn't be. I remember looking at these cereal bar crackers, which is literally just like crackers with dried fruit and sugar on them. And I was stunned that they weren't vegan. I was stunned. I'm pretty sure they had like milk in them. They might have had egg in them as well, but I was like, really? Really? Oh, I just remember being like, nah, it's impossible. So much has it in. So I decided, no, I'm not gonna go vegan. I just couldn't do it. But then the next morning when it came to actually grabbing food, I already knew in the cupboards what was and wasn't vegan, and I couldn't bring myself to choose to eat anything I already knew was not vegan. I was like, crap. Like morally, I just could not choose to not be vegan, if that makes sense. I just felt so compelled to go down the vegan route, and I talked to my parents and I looked up whether or not it was healthy to go vegan, and I assured them it was. They trusted me. I remember telling them I would eat all the vegetarian foods in the freezer, because this was back in the day where only a vegetarian would eat vegetarian frozen foods, the veggie burgers, the veggie sausages, any of those sort of ready meals. I was like, yeah, I'll eat all those. I'll go vegan, but I'll finish off all that stuff. Never did. Never did. It was very overnight for me, and I had no desire at all to eat anything that was not vegan. Not a morsel of desire. No, I could not stand the thought of eating anything that was not vegan. So it was very easy for me to go vegan overnight. Were my parents okay with it is another question, because I do hear so many horror stories about parents that will not stand for their kids being vegan. I remember it quite fondly, but if I ever talk to my mum about this, she will say that it was a nightmare when I first went vegan. Her supermarket shop just got so much more difficult. She was reading the back of everything. Even then, she'd come home with some stuff and I'd read it again. I'd be like, I can't eat this. And she'll be so upset and frustrated that she would have missed something. I'd just feel guilty for her, but it's like, well, I'm not going to eat it. I know, I remember it being quite exciting, because I know a lot of people think it's limiting, but the world just kind of opens up. You get creative about what you're eating and you're discovering all these recipes and different sections of the shop. You go in Holland and Barrett for the first time. I remember it being quite exciting. I remember enjoying it for the most part. Obviously as a teenager as well, like I guess there are two types of teenagers. Some just love to fit in and others love to be different. And I think I was one that liked to stand out and be different. There was a bit of like extra attention and quirkiness, I guess, that came with it, which my ego enjoyed as well. But yeah, I definitely had that annoying moral superiority thing going on for the first couple of years. I don't know if that's even the right way to describe it. It's just very frustrating when you've made the connection and you're like, I can't believe I was eating this stuff for so long. This is so wrong. It's so frustrating when you've made that connection and no one else around you is making it. And I would say to people as they're eating food, like, you know that's a life you're eating, or like, you know death has come from you eating that, which made me a very unpleasant person to be around in meal times. I've done a separate video talking about what it's like being the only vegan in the family. Recommend going to watch that to see a bit more on how I am these days. But yeah, I don't do that anymore. It was not good when I did that. I do remember I sometimes had like a few arguments with my mum. I've learned over the years that it's better to lead with example than try and guilt and shame people. I feel like a better person going down this route. I do remember that being a tough point, but other than that, I'd say that was the biggest issue I had with my parents. Okay, now what was it like at school? So I definitely had to bring in my own packed lunches. I would have just been eating plain pasta probably every day with a bit of salad if I had the school dinner. It wasn't really available, it wasn't an option, I didn't even bother asking. So I just brought my own packed lunch. I pretty much had a sandwich, a carton of raisins, a naked bar, an innocent smoothie, and a banana. I think I pretty much had the same lunch every day for year 9, year 10, year 11. I didn't deviate much from that. I went to a nice school. I went to a private school where the teachers were quite supportive. So whilst I never made any requests with the school dinners, in a couple of classes, like we had home economics, which was food tech to some people. We had the one teacher and she was really lovely about me being vegan. She was actually, I think she found it quite exciting. She was always keen to see what I'd bring in for HE, but that was stressful. She'd be like, we're making quiches this week, and then I'd have to go to the library and Google vegan quiche, and vegan really wasn't a thing here. Most of the recipes would be American, but then they'd have everything in like measured in cups. It would just be so frustrating that I would be like, not every cup is the same, like how is one to work with this? What I really hated is that I never thought I was that great a cook, and I felt like the whole of veganism was resting on my shoulders. I had to make good food. I didn't even bother making good food. I just felt really guilty. I was like, oh, everyone's going to judge veganism by what I've made here, and I can't cook. I'm only 13, 14. When I went vegan, the only thing I knew how to make was an omelette. So that was out the window. So I was just screwed. I just had to learn everything. So now if anyone's ever asking me, oh, would you ever cook for your children or your husband if you have one? Would you ever cook the meat or whatever? And I'm like, no, I've never cooked meat in my life. That sounds dangerous. I think I would kill someone. And also I've got no desire to, but just myriad of reasons. I do remember also one chemistry lesson. The other classes burnt some Haribo on a Bunsen burner to show fat or something, and we burnt Pringles instead, which I thought was really sweet of Mr. Gates to actually think about that. And I'm pretty sure in our biology class we didn't have to dissect frogs. I'm pretty sure the other class did. That might have been a set thing. So maybe because we're in lower set, we didn't. I don't know. But I didn't have to dissect any frogs, which was nice. I would have obviously been like, no, but I didn't have to have that conversation. As for everyone else at school, people thought it was weird. It became my nickname. I've always been a Nicole. I'm not a Nikki girl, so I've never had a nickname for it. And then there'd be a few people who'd call me like vegan or Veg, and I felt kind of cool. I was like, cool, I've got a nickname. I went to an all-girls school, but there were a couple of boys that I hung out with through like a friend of a friend. They were a bit annoying. I do remember when I was like 14 or whatever, they thought it was really hilarious to ask me if vegans could spit or swallow. And I didn't even understand what they were asking. And then when I did understand, I was like, that is so gross. I don't think it's ever held me back with dating. I don't think anyone's been like, I'm not going to date her because she's vegan. I could do a whole other video on dating as a vegan or whatever if you guys are interested in anything on that tangent. I went vegan before I started dating, so I've got a lot of stories, I guess. I've got 14 years worth. Now onto the health benefits. I guess you guys want to know, did my skin clear up? Did I lose weight? All those things. I will be honest, I weirdly wasn't a child. Like at 13, I wasn't hyper aware of my body. I was aware of my skin. I will say that I had bad skin. But as far as my body went, I wasn't super self-conscious or super even just conscious of my body. However, I did notice a lot of weight loss when I went vegan, but a lot of that was probably also due to the fact that I was cooking pretty much everything from scratch. My diet became very fruit, veg, grains, very little processed food. It is very different to going vegan these days where there are ready meals everywhere. A lot of it is about, you know, eating more veg, eating more fruit and all that, but a lot of it is also cooking from scratch. Also, giving up milk, my god. In hindsight, I think I was a bit lactose intolerant. I never liked cheese, but I also would occasionally eat it as a child, but not really intentionally. I'd have a slice of pizza, but if I could choose, like if I was at a pizza making party, I would not put cheese on my pizza, but if it was in like the school halls, I would have pizza if it were the best option. It would just be very rare I'd eat cheese. But I also remember as a child, I used to occasionally get really bad headaches. As an adult, looking back on that, I think that was connected. I don't know for sure because I wasn't tracking myself. Just I remember after I went vegan, those headaches just mysteriously disappeared. And then I found out that my nan gets headaches from cheese, and I was like, Mum, didn't you ever think that maybe that's what was going on when I was younger? So I think I was always a bit lactose intolerant, so giving up milk I think really helped my skin out. I do have like a couple of photos here. So before I went vegan, this was my skin and it was awful. And then after I went vegan, it was also around the time I discovered hair straighteners. My skin was not perfect. I struggled with skin for many a year, but it got a lot better when I went vegan. And also fitness wise, we did athletics every year, and the 1500 was the big run. 2 years straight I was at the back of the pack, won the last cross the finishing line. Out of a group of like 23, 24 girls, I'd be in the last 4. And then I remember the year after I'd gone vegan, so I went vegan at the start of the school year. We do the 1500 more towards the end of the school year, summer term. And I remember, like, with no other extra effort or changes to my life, I was suddenly in the 15, 16th, 17th position, which was quite a step up, especially considering I changed nothing else. And people were like, you did a lot better. That wasn't bad. Whereas beforehand, I was guaranteed to be one of the last. And then suddenly it's like, you didn't do awful. I think it's the first time people clocked that, oh, maybe there is something a bit healthier about being vegan. I do remember that just being easier, like cardio exercising. That was my experience of health and fitness. Okay, so I've been vegan 14 years. Have there been any slip-ups? I remember when I was vegetarian, I went to a Chinese restaurant and I ordered a mushroom soup, and that 100% came with chicken. I made myself sick. I didn't eat for like a day. I was so upset. I would have been 12, 13 at this point. But since I've been vegan, the only time I am aware I've slipped up is when I was at press night for what I thought was a vegan restaurant, or I thought all the canapes were vegan. I had a mouthful of one and I was like, that's cheese. I think it was feta, or what's the other one that people, what's the squeaky one? Halloumi. I think it was halloumi. It wasn't good. So yeah, I had one of those little nibbles, but I was like, great, okay, you live, you learn. But other than that, I haven't knowingly slipped up. I find it very hard to believe that I've never ordered like a soy or oat latte. Surely I must have been given dairy once. I don't know. As far as I'm aware, no. I've never intentionally slipped up either. I've never had a cheat day or anything, and I've never wanted one either. I don't know, I just found it easy to be vegan, I guess, which is not very relatable for a lot of people, I am aware. No desire to slip up. It just feels very natural to me to eat a vegan diet, and that's that. Okay, and what I think is really fun to explore is, what was the vegan scene like back then? Where did I shop? Was it easy to eat out? All that sort of stuff. I knew no vegans for a very long time. I think I first met 1 or 2 when I was at uni, but I wasn't really friends with any vegans until I became an influencer in London. So yeah, I guess it was kind of lonely. I'm lucky I've always lived near London, so every now and then there'd be a vegan fair or festival or something in London, so I would go along to that, and that would be really cool because you'd get all these vegan retailers all under one roof, and you'd be able to buy a lot of like chocolate and stuff like that. I think it's literally chocolate I'd come home with, so I'd go to these things, and beauty products actually. I always found that really nice because you'd be able to test them in person, so I'd buy like lip balms and stuff like that. I always found those really comforting. You'd look around and there would be other vegans about basically, and you'd be like, oh, okay. And I always felt confident that vegan would become a new vegetarian. I was telling people it forever. I was like, it's going to be the new vegetarian, and I think we've surpassed vegetarians personally. I think we have a cooler rep than vegetarians ever had, because I think people just saw that vegetarians didn't want to eat animals, whereas vegans really have like the sustainability argument on our side as well. I think people respect it a bit more, which I don't think that's very fair for vegetarians, but it is what it is. It was definitely very hard eating out back in the day. There were so many times where I'd go somewhere and it would just be like chips and a salad without the salad dressing, which is such a tragic meal. But I was young and I was very happy to have good ethics and morals, and I wouldn't eat out that much. I can just imagine if I was like a professional in the city, it would be really hard when you're having business lunches or going out with friends and stuff like that. You just always feel a little bit left out. There were many a time, especially because I didn't start drinking until I was 22, so there are a lot of group meals where my bill would be separate because I would order a side dish or just like one main, whereas everyone else would have 3 courses and a bottle of wine, and I'd just be like, I just spent £10 on a main meal, which came without half the things anyway. I'm not paying £40 per person for this. A lot of that went on, whereas now there's a lot of vegan options. I drink a lot now. Yeah, I do. So I split bills, and that is so much nicer. That would always be the time where it wasn't that fun to be the odd one out, because you always feel like you sound cheap, but at the same time, it's not fair to split that bill, especially if you're a non-drinker, but yeah, also when everyone else is getting all these courses. I think that was always one of the hard things, like having to have that conversation with people. When it came to eating with friends, I'd often say like, what cuisine are you into? And I'll pick somewhere with vegan options. There were a few years where it was easy to find the vegan restaurants through Google, but it was very hard to find the meat restaurants that had vegan options because your family don't want to go out to a vegan restaurant because they're not vegan. So that was a bit of a struggle, but thankfully that's no longer a problem. Everywhere has a vegan menu these days, or a vegan option, which is wonderful. I love that so much. It used to be a lot of like calling up in advance and saying, hi, we've got a vegan, would you be able to cater for that? And so many restaurants had no idea what vegan even was. Like, they thought it was a fancy way of saying vegetarian. I was like, no. I also don't eat like eggs, milk, honey. And they're like, what about fish? Oh god, guys, we'll get there. So it was just shocking how many restaurants didn't know what a vegan was and how many chefs didn't know how to cook for a vegan. It's like, can you not cook vegetables? Chefs used to act like it was the biggest conundrum, and it's like, literally just roast an aubergine and put tomato and chickpeas on it. It's not hard. But one thing I do miss about the old days is when you would find somewhere that did a good vegan option, they would do it very vegetable based, whereas now there's way too much fake meat. I miss the days of just being able to get really nice salads or sweet potato dishes, aubergine dishes, people actually being creative with vegetables. I'm coming somewhere where someone can really cook, and I want them to do a beautiful thing with veg. Obviously there are still a lot of places that do vegetable based dishes, but I think the fake meat has become a bit too popular for my liking. As far as shopping went, Holland & Barrett has always been one of my favourite places. I don't think they do frozen foods anymore, but for many a year they were the place I could go get the fake meat. They were the places I could go get yogurt and lots of snack bits as well, lots of chocolate. They were godsends. I don't think I could have been vegan half as long if it weren't for Holland & Barrett. I also want to talk about the vegan boom. What has it been like to witness that, and what I think has caused it basically. The attitudes towards veganism have changed dramatically in like the last 5-7 years. I think a lot of it has been from the introduction of Veganuary. I think Veganuary has done so much changing people's perceptions on vegans and really making it seem welcoming. I feel like for many a year it was like, I'm vegan and I judge you for not being vegan, or there'd be vegan police critiquing other vegans all the time, which was just so pointless and judgy and just horrible. I feel like we're very much past that. I think we're just wanting people to be more vegan because any step forward is a step forward, and we just appreciate that. We're not going for perfection, we're not going for superiority, we're just like, hey, this is fun, come join the movement. I love that so much. I think Veganuary are so responsible for that. I would also say, I don't know, people may disagree with me, but Instagram and social media in general has done incredible for the vegan movement. I like to lead by example, and sharing photos of your food online has done really well for leading by example. It gives you the opportunity to show people how many delicious meals you can have as a vegan. Like avocado on toast was massive. Vegan meal. I just think it has done a lot for really inspiring people on how to eat more veg, how to eat more vegan meals. I know it really helped me out. I know a lot of people are always really interested when I share my meals because they're like, oh, I can pretty much eat the same things just like vegan. Like I said, I always knew that veganism would grow. I always knew it would be bigger and bigger, and people would be telling me back when I was 14, like, it's not going to make a difference what you're doing. And it's like, well, yeah, I've now done this for 14 years. It has made a difference. I've saved so many animal lives, and especially working as a vegan influencer, I have inspired so many people to reduce their meat intake, to go vegan, to make better choices. I've made a difference. Everyone who does makes a difference. You don't have to be an influencer to influence people, to be a good influence and a good inspiration in your own circles. It's just been so lovely to see that. I feel a bit emotional right now, but for something that felt so lonely for so long, it's just been so nice to see so many people kind of understanding it. And I think surprisingly for me, a lot of it has come from more of an environmental standpoint rather than feeling for the animals, because factory farming is horrible. It's just nasty, and it's really not something anyone should really be able to sympathise with and agree with. I'm still shocked, but whatever way they've gotten to eating more vegan foods, I'm grateful for. Sorry. It's just been wonderful seeing people really admire veganism for its health and seeing it as like something that's aspirational, rather than having people just critique you all the time, asking you where you get your protein from, telling you that can't be healthy, telling you that can't make a difference. I'm so glad we're beyond that. I like where we are now, and I like that it's a warm and welcoming community, that a lot of people, if they don't feel they can go vegan. They feel like they can eat like 3 vegan meals a week. That's so much better, because beforehand people would not be able to think of a vegan meal. They just would not be able to fathom a meal without meat. I'm glad we're past that. Basically, just, it's not that weird to eat a vegan meal. It really isn't. And the very final question that I'm gonna cover, do I think I'll always be vegan? To that I say yes. Yes, I definitely do. It's just very important to me. I really don't like the idea of exploiting animals, and maybe in the future there'll be a level up from vegan that I'll go to, but I definitely won't be taking a step back. I just enjoy it too much and I believe in it too much. It's just a great way to live, and I never feel like I'm missing out. No, I will never change. It just really suits me. I definitely have heard stories from other people who I know who have gone vegan and it's not really worked for their bodies, and I understand that it may not be the best thing for everyone. I've grown to appreciate that my experience is not going to be everyone's experience. Yeah, for me it's just, it was easy. It just felt so natural and so in line with me as a person, so never go back. Thank you so much for taking a trip down memory lane with me. Please do hit like and subscribe if you want more vegan content. My what I eat in a week videos are quite interesting, and any tips you need, any advice, I am here to help. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, and until next time, bye!